Hey, everybody, how's it going? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very excited to be here with you, and I want to congratulate you on taking your first step, making your first deposit in this journey of your optimal lifestyle. And again, we're so excited, us here at Team Live the Seven, are just excited to have you here. So let's dive into the Module Zero series, kind of get you up to date with what we're talking about, and get you on the road to feeling optimal. With this Module Zero series, really the purpose of this is just to help you lay a really great foundation of just basic knowledge about your human physiology, basic knowledge about some of the things that we're going to be covering in this course, and just diving a little bit deeper than some of the information that we've shared with you prior to this. But again, breath is the first one in our 7-layer system of the Live the Seven program. And so let's dive in. So I always like to start off some of our modules or some of our videos or our talks together with a quote that just kind of helps grounds us and kind of sets the theme, kind of the mantra of this module. This is like BKS in Yangar. A man's life is not measured by his years, but measured by his breaths. I think we have to look at that. And as we get through the end of this module, I think this will make a lot more sense too, because we really have to look at our own physiology and really how important our breath is to our overall state, how we manage our stress, how we sleep, how we move our bodies, even how our body digests our food properly. And I always, people ask us quite a bit, why is breath, well, why do you say breath is the most important layer of this program? And, I know what you're thinking when we talk about breath. You're probably like, oh man, here comes the guy with the man bun. We're going to dance around and talk about breathing practices and getting all hippie. But really, it is laying that foundation. This is your only control mechanism to how you can respond to the world around you. So we want to ensure that we understand the physiology of breathing, understand how to use this superpower that we have. A lot of us may not even be, putting into play every single day. And again, the lack of a breath control or lack of this knowledge can be working against us, because if you can command your breath, you can command your physiology. And so we're really excited to jump into this with you guys here. So let's think about this. You can live without food for weeks. You can live without water for days, but without air, we can only live without it for just a few minutes at most, right? So that kind of tells you something there, that our breath, our exchange of oxygen and CO2 is probably pretty important to our well-being. So I want us to get kind of an understanding, at least an outline of, our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system, and central nervous system in general, because this is something we want to ensure that we're really understanding, so we can know if we're in that fight or flight response or in that rest or digest response, and how can we get to one or the other as needed and get in control and get in the driver's seat of our response to the world around us. And you think about, we're in that sympathetic state, that's that fight or flight response. You think increased heart rate, our lungs are dilating, shallow breathing, contracting our muscles, preparing for something. We're releasing adrenaline into the body. Our body is dumping glucose into the system from our muscles and from our liver to kind of get us ready for a run or a fight, depending on what that is. And this is a very important nervous system state to be in, because we wouldn't be here as a human species if we didn't have this. This helps us fight. This really helps us, take on what we need to take on in short bouts. And then we have our parasympathetic nervous system, right? Rest and digest, restoring our body state, getting our brainwaves in a state of relaxation, decreasing our heart rate. And it's allowing our stomach movement and the secretions of bodily digestive functions to work more appropriately. So again, we have to understand these two, because with our breath, that's going to really help us dictate how do we get in our parasympathetic state when we want to rest and digest, but how do we get ourselves pumped up or get heightened for something like a speech or something for like a workout or getting us energized for the day. And this can kind of give us that visual, if you're more of a visual learning. But look at all those systems within the body that are connected to this, right? We look at our lungs, we look at our heart, our liver, our pancreas, our digestive system, our reproductive organs. All these things are based around our human nervous system. We want to ensure that our breath is in control, so we can be in control of this, not letting the outside world control us. So I always like to say your breath is talking to your brain, right? The body is sending signals to the brain about the state of the system, and the brain sends information to the body to respond to the body's cues. So you think about, in this loop, we're having some shallow breathing, right? Is being performed as a symptom of stress. And it's informing the body that there's something going on. There's a threat. There's something outside threatening us. So that's how we inform the body and the brain that, hey, okay, hey, brain, there's something out here. There's a lion in the bushes or something stressing us out, to kind of upregulate the things we need to get in that fight or flight response. So this means that the central nervous system not only kicks into high gear when under stress, but it shortens your breath. And that's when shallow breathing is going to trigger that central nervous system or that sympathetic nervous system activation, right? So when we're in that shallow breathing state, it's kind of kicking off some of those alarms. So when you breathe into your upper chest, where you have those short breaths, our brain is interpreting that as a sign of struggle, a sign of trouble or struggle or something that's really freaking us out, right? And if we stay in this chronic stress, it's this feedback loop. So you think of it, it's kind of like your body system. It's the equivalent of running a marathon, but it never ends. Think about that. If you had to run a marathon and there was no finish line, or you had to run a mile and every time you got to the end, it just kept on going or just restarted, right? That's very stressful to the body. So by modulating our breath, you can consciously initiate the sympathetic nervous system activation and switch it over to that parasympathetic nervous system activation or relaxation, depending on how you're controlling your breath and in what way. And you think about what is your breath saying to your brain, right? This is a great meta-analysis and a systematic review about breath control and how it can really change your life, the psycho and physiological correlates of slow breathing, right? And in this study, they found with slow breathing techniques or diaphragmatic breathing, we saw an increase in HRV or increase in heart rate variability, increase in alpha brain waves of relaxation, decrease in theta brain waves, increases in emotional control, and increases in reported well-being. But even on top of that, the physiological and the psychological effects from having a breath control practice or slow breathing correlated to more comfort, relaxation, pleasantness, vigor, alertness, reduction of symptoms of arousal, anxiety, depression, anger, and even confusion. So when you really look at this from a scientific perspective, and they've done the studies on this, that slow breathing really does help us psychologically and physiologically. So know that it's in your best interest and your body's best interest to understand how some of these slow breathing techniques work and how they show up best in your life. So I want you to ask yourself some questions. These are kind of a checklist to go down if you feel like maybe you might be thinking like, yeah, maybe this breath stuff, this is something I haven't really dove into. I've heard about the importance of it, but I've never really learned how to start. But how do you know if you might need to focus on your breath? I think we all need it, but some of us might be dealing with other issues or might have some signals our body is telling us that maybe our breath practice is off or our physiology breathing is off. So you might be breathing through your mouth constantly in daily activities. I'm speaking right now on the microphone, so I'm breathing through my mouth. But if I'm just sitting here answering emails, am I breathing through my mouth or am I breathing through my nose? You might wake up every morning with a very dry mouth. I know I had this in the past when I had some breathing issues while I slept. Or you might be snoring. You might have that your partner next to you shoving you every few minutes because you're snoring, which is something we really want to attack too. If you find yourself or you have issues with snoring, we really need to look at our physiology of breathing, improving our nasal breathing throughout the day. And there's some techniques we're going to share and some strategies throughout this course to help you attack that so you can get higher quality sleep. Because if you're snoring, you're inevitably getting disrupted sleep. You might visibly notice your breath while at rest. You might be, again, laying on the couch or, answering some emails or sitting at your desk and just visibly seeing your chest rising. You might visibly seeing that chest. You may be having short breaths, even if you're relaxed, or you might be you might think you're in a relaxed state. You might even sigh a lot through the day. I hear people go, for just no reason. And you're trying to almost catch your breath, not shortness of breath, but you're kind of sighing. And that's a sign that maybe over breathing or we're not getting enough oxygen and CO2 exchange within the body. Or again, you might be are you hearing your breathing at rest? Do you hear your breath or is someone next to you, your partner? Can they hear you breathing when you're sleeping? Right, that's a good one, a good sign of maybe our breath practice, or maybe we need to start changing some of our approaches to our physiology of our breathing. So just as excess calories can cause metabolic damage and weight gain and a whole host of other diseases, right? Excess oxygen can also prematurely damage our tissues through the generation of excess free radicals. So I think a lot of times when it comes to breathing, people think, oh, you just need to breathe more oxygen. Oxygen is good and CO2 is bad. But really, CO2 is an extremely important hormone within the body, and every single cell in our body needs it and produces CO2. But there's also CO2 helps to relax a lot of the vasculature in our body, helps allow us to get more oxygenation of our tissues. So even if we're over breathing, meaning if we're breathing too much through our mouth, taking in too much oxygen in relation to our CO2, that can throw our body systems off. That can cause more damage. Think about like an apple, right? If you cut an apple, leave it on the counter, walk away, Come back in a few hours, you've got that browning of the apple, right? So now that's the oxygen starting to create free radicals within that tissue, because before that the apple had that skin to protect it from that, just like with rusting, right? Oxygen is very damaging. So we have to make sure we have an appropriate balance and we're giving our body what it needs, but not giving it too much or doing it in excess, just like excess calories or excess anything can cause damage to the body, even if it's a good thing. So I want to stop here and say this is your first growth opportunity towards self mastery in optimizing your lifestyle, whether you like it or not. But this is why we start with breath, because really, no matter where you're at, this is low hanging fruit, no cost, real time actionable things you can do right now to drastically improve your wellness, your focus, your energy, your sleep, and your mood without having to pay for super supplements or get a trainer or do any of these things, but just understanding your physiology of breath, the importance of it, and having a little bit of why behind it can really help to improve your wellness today, right now, when we get done with this module. Even while you're sitting there, maybe listening to us in the car, maybe we're going to start closing our mouth and just breathing through our nose as we listen to this. So you've heard me say over breathing, right? Or what does chronic over breathing lead to if we're taking too many breaths throughout the day, or we're breathing inadequately or inefficiently into different, if we're breathing into our mouth, in our mouth through into our chest, or not nasal breathing throughout, we can see a loss of overall health, a loss of overall fitness level, compromised athletic professional and professional performance, that can look like anxiety, asthma symptoms, fatigue, insomnia, even heart problems and obesity. So I know some people may be like, oh, how does my breathing have anything to do with weight gain? But we got to look at that larger system of the body and making sure that it's functioning properly, and making sure that we're doing the small things, breathing through our nose throughout the day. When we're eating and we're speaking, we're breathing through our mouth. But if we're sitting at our desk or driving in the car, we can always practice focusing on nasal breathing only, and that'll help to improve that ratio of oxygen to CO2 in the body. It'll help send signals to the body to be more relaxed, because again, if we're over breathing or taking in too much, again, like I spoke about prior, it can really start to increase that chronic stress signal, and we can start seeing all kinds of other detrimental health issues come along. So there's three areas of breathing that I want us to really focus on, that I want us to pay attention to when we talk about the physiology of our breathing, or areas we're going to be focusing on. But for the first one, it's going to be our biomechanics. Where are we breathing from? Into our diaphragm? Are we breathing in our chest? Are we horizontally expanded 360 degrees? Are we filling up our entire diaphragm properly? Right? Those are the biomechanics. Then the physiology. What state are we in? Are we calm? Are we stressed? How are we breathing in those times? And how are we helping our body switch back and forth? If we're trying to go to sleep, how are we breathing? If we're trying to get amped up for the day or improve energy or go into a meeting or be more focused, how are we breathing to use that? And then what's our cadence? What's the number of breaths we take in each minute? If you have biofeedback tools, you're utilizing Oura Ring, overnight, you're going to see that it's going to measure how many breaths you're taking in per minute. And that's a great indicator to see, okay, hey, maybe we need to improve our breathing practice, or maybe our physiology, because we may be taking in 20 plus breaths per minute, when knowingly we need to get that breath, if we can, between 12 to maybe 16 breaths per minute, and even lower if we start to go deeper into a breathing practice. But really, just like with our resting heart rate, the less breaths we take, the less issues it's going to cause for the body, and more efficiently we are with our exchange of energy and oxygen and CO2 within the body. So as we wrap up each one of these Module Zero series, I like to say, what can you expect to learn, or what you can do now, which you'll see in the course. But as we move into the next module here, I want us to take away some of the things you can look forward to that we're going to learn about breath in this Live the Seven course. So how you can leverage your breath to ignite your focus, improve creativity or ignite creativity, utilize it for stress relief and for better sleep. So again, using it as you need, using it as a tool, using it as a skill that you can use within your inevitably stressful lifestyle that's going to happen. Using your breath to improve your exercise performance and your recovery with really easy real-time actions. So you might be somebody that exercises quite a bit and you just want to get that, kind of get that edge, or you feel like you could do a little bit better and your breathing may be off, or you're someone, that may not exercise a lot yet, and you want to find ways where you can improve your oxygenation, improve that resting heart rate while you're on your walks or while you're moving your body. But then also, if we're training pretty hard, if we're moving our body more, how can we improve our recovery so we can come back and do the things we love when it comes to movement the next day? And then lastly, improving your digestion, tackling your anxiety, and build stress resilience utilizing your breath control. Because again, we believe that stress resilience is greater than just stress management. We don't want to just manage the stress. We don't want to just kind of just move with it. We want to be able to have resilience and be able to buffer against that and hedge against the stress that's inevitable and still be optimal in that moment, in that season of our life, and still feel great and move better, make better choices with food, and just sleep better or have less stress. And using this and using a breath control practice is going to help extend that bandwidth and your resiliency towards stress. So again, thank you all for being here. We're excited for you to be in this course. I hope you got a little bit more of an informative look or perspective at how we're going to use breath and what to learn as we move through this course. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the next module. Take care.